My name is Dr. Cheryl Richards. I have the pleasure of serving as President and CEO of Catapult. We're delighted to have you here today with us as we talk about workforce development with two of our special guests. Our guests today are CEO of Myers & Chapman Construction, Marcus Raymond, and CEO of Mueller Corporation, Frank Mueller. They're here both representing Catapult member companies, and we're going to talk today about workforce development, particularly in the construction industry, both from the general contractor and the subcontractor perspective. So before I introduce our guests, let me remind you about Catapult Employers Association. For those of you who are members or non-members, Catapult is a nonprofit organization, and you can see our mission statement here is our goal is to provide employers with the confidence to navigate everyday operational challenges, making workplaces more effective and employees more successful. And our two guests today have overcome some significant operational challenges when it comes to recruiting talent. And they're finding ways to make their workplaces more effective and their employees more successful through some innovative ways of addressing workforce development. So now let me jump in and introduce our two guests, and then we'll kick off our discussion. Marcus Raymond, thank you for joining us. Marcus, as self-proclaimed, wanted to be a leader in the construction industry from really an early age of about 14, and he achieved that goal. He now serves as the CEO, overseeing all aspects of Myers & Chapman, and is the self-proclaimed keeper of culture and leader of the company's mission, which is to deliver a better construction experience. Marcus has a Bachelor of Science in Building and Construction and Contracting from Georgia Southern University, and is a licensed general contractor in North and South Carolina, as well as Georgia, Tennessee, and Virginia. So Marcus, thanks for being with us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Frank is an experienced entrepreneur who is skilled in business planning, entrepreneurship, strategic planning, international business, and business development. He is educated at Harvard Business School, at the Duke Fuqua School of Business, the University of St. Gallen International School of Management, and comes to us today representing a subcontractor perspective as the CEO of Mueller Corporation. Thank you, Frank, for being with us this morning. So let me start with our conversation here, and for our attendees, we'll do this kind of panel style. We'll have some conversation with our two guests, and then we're going to throw in a couple poll questions here and there for our audience so that we can tailor some of the questions. You do have the ability as a participant to submit a question through the question feature in GoToWebinar, even though your microphone will not work. So please feel free if something comes to your mind. Let's go ahead and get those questions in the chat, and then we'll address those with our guests here as we go along. We won't wait till the end to do that. So let me start with kind of broad setting context around workforce development challenges. You don't need to go far to know that the labor shortage is alive and well and affecting virtually every industry. Some of those industries have been hit harder than others, and the combination of people retiring at higher rates, the birth rates being lower, individuals opting to find different employment careers in different industries has hit us. And that's led to one of the greatest labor shortages really of our generation and decades. So one of the things that I know the two of you have done is come together and kind of brought competitors together at the beginning of the pandemic and formed an industry coalition. And so I'd love to hear, kind of the thoughts behind that coalition and what kind of issues you tackled and solved together. So Marcus, maybe I'll start with you as kind of the brain trust behind that.
I don't know about the brain trust, but something kind of every once in a while we get lucky with some things, but just in general, conversations started, as we all know, we've come through a pandemic. Not to belabor that, we're all trying to get past that and move on with things. But something that really happened in our industry was out of necessity. A lot of things happen because of necessity, and start thinking about, as a collective group, what can you accomplish? And from a conversation one day with some folks, and said, hey, we've got to get some help here. We don't really know what to do. I mean, it's something none of us have ever experienced, nothing we've ever seen. So reaching out to a lot of competitors, and everybody having the same sentiment as, again, we are competitors by day, but also if we can collaborate and work together, maybe we can solve some of these issues we have in front of us, especially with the pandemic as kind of being a little bit of crisis mode. But so everybody came together. I mean, we went from, roughly, maybe 15 to 20 contractors to probably 40 to 50 contractors in a matter of a week, with people starting to collaborate and discuss things about how to get through this pandemic, and how to deal with some of the things we were dealing with as an industry in itself.
That's excellent. And Frank, you kind of were brought into this conversation too. Tell us about your perspective of the pandemic and how that led to a little bit of innovation. And Frank, you're on mute.
All right, thanks very much. Yeah, well, this pandemic, I mean, hit us hard as we were working nationwide, and that was completely different by state, how states, communities handled this pandemic, and also then here with this 4C that they came together as a general contractors and had guidelines which was easier for us to follow, as we follow, we go on job sites and the general contractor prepares everything for us, so to speak, that we had more or less the same standard everywhere in the industry, which was lacking in different other states where we were working, or we are working. And this was great to see at the beginning, and during the whole phase, how the general contractors came together and helped run job sites and helped survive, so to speak, for everybody and anybody.
Excellent. And Marcus, you didn't tell us quite of what 4C stands for, but Frank has given us an invitation to explore that a little bit more. Would you give our viewers a little bit more insight into what that is and kind of how it's working?
Yeah, so basically what I mean, again, it was kind of born, the 4C name was born out of trying to have something to identify with what was going on, but it was all the general commercial contractors here in Charlotte getting together, and all about team and learning how to use Teams and Zooms and all that kind of stuff that we all really got forced into using so abruptly. But basically, they worked together, and what Frank alluded to was putting together some standards that we could share across multiple job sites. That was probably the hardest thing that we were trying to do. Having equally contract, everybody doing their own thing, or trying to solve the equation by themselves was not really working. Subs were struggling. I mean, they were like, the contractor here, A wants this, contractor B wants that, contractor C not doing anything. So getting that group together to start talking about those, and then moving into, again, there was an issue with supply chain, with being able to get supplies and things for stuff that was happening. So being able to solve some of those things as a group allowed us to be able to be a lot more efficient and effective a lot quicker. And it came down to also vaccinations, how to tackle that from the construction industry. A lot of people that are, especially in the construction industry, very reluctant to take the COVID shots and the vaccines. So as a group, I mean, that the general contracting world, we also had a lot of subs that came in with us as well. Frank, his group, and a lot of the other trades started kind of getting in with us too a little bit to help. What are their perspectives and things that were happening? So that's kind of really the basis of 4C, was to solve what we had in front of us at the time that nobody had ever seen, and how to do it effectively and efficiently.
Yeah, that's excellent. And that's the Charlotte Commercial Construction Coalition that we have now come to learn as 4C. And I think what was really exciting about that is you started with some really important things that were like, vaccinations and personal protective equipment and some of the material shortage, because that was important for your industry. But it evolved into really a workforce development issue, right? It started with kind of how do we come together to work in the pandemic. So let's talk about maybe some of the other things that you all learned from forming 4C here around workforce development and how you were creating opportunities for new participation in the workforce. So let's maybe bridge that from managing the team that in this COVID, it's in place and you had to work through some technology issues and bring people up to speed on that. But then always looking ahead for the longer term vision. So tell us how it kind of evolved into this workforce focus.
Yeah, so similar. So what we saw and we all recognized was, you know, we all kind of see each other as competitors, and we kind of cross paths some here and there, whether it's with work or sometimes with different organizations. But we realize as a collective group, I mean, we can move the needle a lot more as a collective group versus we can as individuals. So a lot of these conversations started into, you know, what is the next, you know, kind of, if you look at it from the pandemic, you know, what is another crisis that we have going on? And again, as you alluded to, Cheryl, and the other industries is the same thing, but construction has been going, it's not something new. We've been seeing this for many years, but it's continued to get worse and worse as the older folks are aging out, especially in the trades, not as many younger people coming into the industry. But again, we saw that as an opportunity as a collective group to start trying to figure out how to be more impactful with workforce development versus, you know, one contractor doing this, one contractor doing that, one working with this sub, one working with that sub. So it's really what kind of evolved in a lot more conversations around how do we, as a group, impact the workforce development and workforce in general, about not only for our companies, but for our subcontractors companies as well, which is where, you know, and as a GC, the rubber meets the road with the subs. Is we're only as good as our teams that we can surround ourselves with, and if our subs can't get the workforce, then we, you know, we're dead in the water as general contractors. We can't get this work put in place. So that's where it really came, as we looked at it as more of a unique, it's not really unique, but more of a crisis type situation that we needed more impact as a group and can make more impact as a group than we could as an individual.
I think that's a really great point, Marcus, and one of the reasons that we were excited to have both of you here, because it's not just an individual company or you know, the general contractor's approach to workforce development. You rely on your own supply chain, which includes your subs and your partners. And so, Frank, can you talk a little bit about kind of how this has affected your ability to attract talent and bring more individuals into this ecosystem for an industry career option?
Well, the major obstacle is that we are in construction, and people do not like to work outside, inside, in dirty places to build something. And this was coming already the last years down the road, that people elected to be in the tech sector, in other sectors, hospitality, and all these things where you just don't make your hands dirty. And they think that with your hard work and your hands work, you cannot earn anything. You're on poverty line, which is far from it, actually. And just to change their mind is hard. And that what we also discovered during the pandemic. Okay, people were laid off in different other jobs. They wanted to go to construction, but they had no idea of what, not even how to screw in the wall. So that what we have is attack that with our academy. It's a non-profit as well, as you guys are, just to start training unskilled people, bring them into construction. With the Craft and Trade Academy here in Charlotte, that's one of these things we're doing with a pre-apprenticeship construction experience, a PACE program, where people come new into the industry, because that's what we need. As Marcus said, if subcontractors are not putting people on these jobs, I mean, he can have nice plans and have nice quotes and have nice contracts, but he cannot finish. And the architect and the owners, they cannot build. So that trickles down. And this is really the hard work, is making construction for the hands-on people attractive, that they know that when they work, that they can earn a living, and a very good living, so to speak.
Yep. Yeah, I think it. Go ahead, Marcus.
I was just going to say, kind of tack onto that, what Frank's saying is what we realized too, you know, we knew Mueller and I didn't even know as a general contractor that with the good things that Frank was doing in his business with the academy. And we started looking and saying, okay, we could start our own or whatnot, but there's so many great organizations and people that are already on this journey. And Frank is probably unique to the industry. And I think why he brings such a great perspective is he does have a nonprofit, but he's also a for-profit business. But he's having to train, and he's also not just training just people for himself. Is we've got to step outside of just worrying about just our one company in multiple different trades in the industry in general. And I think that's something unique Frank's doing with his academy. And we see other organizations that we need to get behind and really help prop up or help. And think that's been a lot more impactful than just trying to do one all, finding the ones and just help grow them because they already have a basis and a platform to be able to help, doing some great things. And I think with the support from the subs and the GC, we can really help that flourish and be more effective as we continue to move through this situation.
So that's a great segue, I think, into partnerships, right? You have formed a partnership within your industry, but you're also forming partnerships outside of the industry with workforce development organizations, with educational institutions. Frank, why don't you tell us a little bit more about this academy and kind of the genesis for it, and then let's jump into maybe a little bit more conversation around some of those partnerships.
Well, the academy started out of the idea that we, for our profit business, basically, which is flooring, cleaning, solar panel cleaning, all these other strange things we are doing, that we need people and to grow. And that's why we started an academy, because there was nobody out there for tile installation or flooring to really hands-on train them. I mean, there's online seminars, all good. However, you need the hands-on experience, and you cannot do that by going to a seminar for a weekend and then you're the perfect installer. So that's why we said we have to start that, and then moved because our roots are in Europe, and thought we could translate that a little bit into the US, this system. So learning, paying, you get paid while you learn. So we pay these people to learn their jobs. And then we said, okay, we have to run this PACE program, pre-apprenticeship construction experience, so that people come in there, and we're offering with other subcontractors together, people the possibility to shadow for a couple of weeks and get OSHA training and all these things up front, to see what construction is about, whether they like to be painters, tile installers, plumbers, all these things. And then they go into these companies and start working, and they are from high school graduates till 34 years old, where they want to learn something different. So it's the whole bunch, is the mix of people we need, bringing in from outside the construction, instead of making a tile installer a plumber. That doesn't help us, because there's no fresh blood in there. We need the people from the outside. Not everybody is there to be trained at a college level, but with their hands, and that's the thing, that this Craft and Trade Academy bridges between the trades, the craft, where you can also earn money, just to give these people a chance to work in the construction field.
Yeah, I think you've hit on something really important, and I'm actually participating in a national conference looking at economic trends now, and there's a lot of discussion around the skilled trades area and the shortage of labor in the skilled trades in particular, as well as other industries that don't require a 4-year college degree. But it seems like it's harder and harder to attract the talent, because there are parents and older generations who may have a particular perspective of some of those industries. So how do you get into, I guess both of you, how do you start to influence at the middle school and the high school levels? And can you talk a little bit about that?
I know for us, I mean, yeah, and that's nail on the head. Something that we've been focused on a lot is getting to these kids early and teaching them and then educating their parents a little bit around, what does it mean to be in construction? Doesn't necessarily always mean digging a ditch. And that's what kind of perception is. But getting in there, and we have, like the ACE Mentor program, which is, kind of geared more in the high school, but even earlier than that, some of the Explorer Post stuff we do with Boy Scouts, some of those type things, it's exposing them to these industries and exposing them to opportunities that they normally, might not see, or their parents might not take them to see, but trying to find ways to get in there earlier and educate and make them interested, make it interesting when you are interacting with them. We've had numerous high school classes on some of our job sites, just going out and learning more about what construction's all about, seeing some pretty cool projects and things like that. Also, too, as Frank mentioned, there's a lot of kids out there. We do some work in, we don't do a lot of public school work, but we do a good bit of private charter school type work. And, we interact with the kids there a lot. And we've got a gentleman working for us that'll probably do great things in our company. He started, we ended up meeting us as a junior in high school. We were building a new building on their campus. Really spent a lot of time, spent part of his senior years helping us clean up a little bit, getting introduced to it. Thought he wanted to go to welding school. Ended up coming to work for us. I've been here for about 5 or 6 years now, and has become a superintendent for us, and will probably end up going on being, potentially a general superintendent. And I think he has aspirations, talking with him, of owning his own business one day. So he, again, is getting there early and not being scared of trying to get down into those younger groups and bringing them along, because they need that early. Because we go into colleges and recruit for our side of the business, the management side of it. Typically project managers and whatnot. I mean, I have some that don't have college degrees, but the majority, typically is learning the business side of things, is very helpful in that. But from the building side of things, most of our superintendents, again, we have some that are college educated, some that are trade school, some that just grew up in what we call the world of hard knocks. Construction can be a tough business, but those guys understand, the constructability of things, and some of the most intelligent people, and they get the most rewarding out of being able to actually physically build or see these things built. So educating people a little bit more about what construction is, versus just letting them make a perception, and their parents, kind of mold their mind in that construction is bad. It's not good. A lot of these kids that go into construction end up earning, considerably more than a lot of their counterparts that end up going to college and getting a degree that they may use, may not use, trying to figure those out. So it's just, again, college is not for everybody, but I think in our world of that we all grew up in today, is why it's hurting us a little bit of getting these kids into the construction industry and into the trades.
Yeah, Frank, anything to add there?
No, not much. What we discovered is basically Bob the Builder is very good in middle school, and then all the grades are kicking in, and parents want their kids to succeed and go to college. We also, Marcus and I, we also have children, and it's the thing that just the construction, what can you do when you're just working on the construction side? And that's the thing that we have to overcome that in, as Marcus said, when you're doing an apprenticeship, when you're going to a general contractor and then rise their ladder up. Also with us, we have people who are working on job sites, and now they are project managers. Things like that, they don't know. People don't know that. No, that's why we are teaming up also with public high schools here in Charlotte, who are running that programs, who know that people have to go to work outside college. And that's the thing, that the school systems as well, not only us as the industry, not only the parents, which are holding back probably their kids, but also that the school systems, public school system, motivates them, that they can go and do something with their hands and do something really meaningful and earn a lot of good money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as a career educator, 30 years in higher education, I feel your pain there. I know, talking to a lot of the students, not knowing they had some options to go into particular industries because they're not promoted well, they're not glamorized, right? It becomes hard. And also the the curriculum in education. I was just listening to a national economist who said, what happened to all the shop classes that used to be required, in high schools in the agrarian days when we were, building up our workforce in a little different way. Now we've become very tech savvy, and there's lots of technical aspects of this industry as well. But probably a combination of all of those pieces coming together to help promote the industry. I'd like to ask our Catapult meeting organizers to put up a poll here as we transition into kind of where do you find the talent? And I'd like to hear from our attendees who are listening in where you're having the most success recruiting. And we'll put a poll up here on for you to sign in. We'll give that just a minute, and then maybe we'll dig into that and see where people are finding their talent. All right, let's get, oh, it's bouncing back and forth. Let's see what our results are. All right, here's the results of our poll, kind of neck and neck. LinkedIn and your own network, followed by community involvement, and then down to campus recruiting. So let's dig into that a little bit more, because I think this is indicative of our thinking differently webinar right now, right? We talk about campus recruiting or high school recruiting, middle school recruiting. The two of you have done that, and you're digging deep in there. That was only 6% of our poll. Community involvement is important, right? Getting your name out there, your brand out there, promoting your organization. And then between LinkedIn and your own networks, that was really over half of our attendees listening in. Either of you have thoughts? Does that resonate with you? Is that similar to kind of where you're finding the talent, similar trends, or are you bucking those trends?
Yeah, I'd say some, but a couple of things that we've noticed. So the community involvement piece of it, I would say is probably been visibility of the company for us. I mean, for what we do. So again, it's probably not going to resonate much quite with the trades, but it can with the trades. It's like being a known entity somewhere that it's got a good reputation, known for taking care of their employees, those type of things. So we've been a lot more intentional about that over the last couple of years. But I think it's paid dividends in drawing better talent to our company. And the other thing I think is one thing that I was reluctant for a while, but finally got on board for was, just because it's such a harder market these days, and having somebody focused. We like to use the saying around here, somebody's got to wake up in the morning brushing their teeth thinking about this stuff. And having somebody, because is in a construction business, generally, in most all businesses, but it's definitely in construction, a lot of stress, a lot of fast pace, a lot of things going on, and you're trying to juggle too many balls. So we actually have we put in HR full-time in the company instead of part-time a couple years ago, as well as having a third-party recruiter, basically that works just for us. She's kind of does nothing but working on helping make sure we have the right recruiting tools and right time hitting the colleges when we are recruiting interns, following up with candidates, mining candidates, passive candidates, those type of things. But somebody really focused on that. And then part of our educational piece too. I mean, they're engaged in that as well as we go into college campuses or go into high schools or ACE mentoring program, but somebody paying attention to it. And I don't think you can afford these days in any business not to have some element of that with somebody at least half their job, if not their full-time job, if you're in a hiring mode, in a growth mode. If you're staying, sustainable, but I know for Frank and the trades and for us, it's a constant churn. It's looking for talent, and having somebody focused on it constantly has been a game changer for us.
Yeah, it's a little bit the same for us. This LinkedIn for the trades, not so much applicable, more for the office jobs, obviously. But then the own network, that's through our employees, basically, that they word of mouth marketing, that they want other people's work for us, basically, and they say we treat them good, we pay good, all these things. We have good relationships with project managers, so all these things count. That's how our people, or that we get more people. from hearsay, basically. And that's really that other thing. Of course, if you recruit more for the office part, then LinkedIn or the social media is much more attractive to do so. But for us, it's really this networking and word of mouth where we are getting people from, basically. Plus obviously high school recruiting and all these things we just talked about.
Yeah. I know at Catapult, we offer recruiting services for our members and non-members, and that has been the #1 request over this year. Background checks and applicant tracking and assisting with the whole processing of candidates coming into the system so that you can spend your time finding the right people. And then our fractional HR services that allow for recruiting for companies has been on the rise. And I think that's a testament to what both of you have just said is, you've got to have a full-time focus on recruiting and keep people coming through. I want to ask one more question of our audience, since we've touched on it a little bit before we move into some other areas, and that's a poll question around what level you're attracting talent. So if our organizers could put up our second poll question, let's ask our audience, if you are attracting talent through schools, what level are you attracting them? At the middle school, high school? Are you going to trade schools? Are you working with community colleges? Or have you done what Frank's done and developed your own pipeline and your own academy? Let's give our folks a minute here. All right, it looks like we're close here. We're going to collect some responses and put those up here on the screen. All right, so the bulk of our participants in today's call, attracting talent through the community colleges. Interestingly here, developing their own talent, and whether that's developing their own talent through an academy like Frank, you just described, looking into the high schools and the trade schools, and not quite yet getting there into the middle schools. That's a little bit longer ROI, I think, for many of our businesses to try and invest there, but certainly becoming more and more popular as we struggle to find some of the talent and just the demographics, the way they're changing. You both have referenced this ACE partnership, but you haven't really told our viewers what it is. Would you like to share a little bit more about the ACE mentorship involvement and kind of what that is?
Sure. Yeah. So ACE is architectural contracting and engineering. So it's basically kind of a organization in a lot of our high schools in the area, at least in Mecklenburg County and surrounding counties. And you typically get assigned into certain schools. And we have multiple folks in our business that participate with doing more mentorship with these young individuals. I think they're anywhere. I'm not sure if they're juniors. I mean, I think it's at least sophomore and up. I'm not sure if freshmen get involved with that, but they're typically, at least 2 or 3 years away from getting out of school, whether they're going to college or not. But again, as we talked about some of the trade stuff, this is really more focused on kind of more of the office and kind of more of the engineering and architectural piece of it. But it is still as an industry, we're all working together to try to continue to recruit people, our kids from these high schools to go into the construction industry as a whole itself.
And how about summer interns? How many, I assume you're doing some work with summer interns. Do you have statistics on whether or not that's proving successful?
I'll go first, Frank, but for us, it is. It's something that is, as a company, I've been with the company since 2007. When I got here, I mean, they might have an intern here and there in general, but it was not commonplace. But probably for the last 5 to 6 years, we've been very, very strategic about partnerships with schools and stuff to be able to get interns here. We're carrying roughly anywhere from 7 to 8 a year at different times. We actually do a couple of co-ops, and we also do internships. but being very fruitful. But one thing that we've learned with it is be intentional and get engaged with where you're getting interns from, whether they're high school, whether they're college, whether they're junior college. The more you're engaged, the more that the professors and the folks there are helping you with getting the top talent into your company and getting you connected with those people. It's really helped us. And also the other thing that we've learned is making an internship very, very robust and fulfilling for that individual. Ultimate to us is if we bring a person in for internship as a sophomore or junior in college, and they're asking to come back the next year, we've done our job. We're probably going to get that talent into our company. Where I see it, we hear a lot of horror stories from people that may have been in one and come to ours, and they're like, man, this was a lot different than I experienced last year. We learned we were not good either. We got the same feedback. Man, I had a lot better internship last year, and we're like, well, we got to up our game. And you've got to keep these kids today are definitely they're looking for the experience. They're looking for opportunity to grow quickly, make an impact. What is your impact? What are you doing in the community as a company? So it's changed, and that's what we're really trying to evolve and draw those interns here. And then the ultimate goal is to keep them and then make them successful in your company.
For our situation, interns doesn't play too much a big of a role, as we are, we're working nationwide and are really the hands-on people, basically. And therefore, insurances and all these things prohibit sometimes taking 16, 17-year-old ones. And then the older ones are about to graduate. So that's why we're picking them up through the PACE program or through the academy. Or just these are the way we're doing these things, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes to providing a quality experience, Marcus, as you described. I know that students talk to one another when they have a good experience at an employer, and they go back to their campuses and say, "Oh, you might want to, intern here." And employers who do not give a robust experience often will find it hard to get referrals out of the student networks. And so what you've described around being intentionally focused about a meaningful experience that gives them the actual job skills, but also puts them in alignment with the company is critical. And I'll put a plug for next year. Catapult announced and launched an internship wraparound program this past spring and had about 40 students participate in it for our member companies. And we helped shape the experience that the interns were having when the employer was focused on the work, right? A lot of these students want to still have community and social engagement. So that was a wraparound service we provided, as well as helping employers find interns to come there. So if those of you who are listening would like to start up an internship program, stay tuned for next spring. We'll offer that again for our member organizations over the summer. Let's talk a little bit now about kind of more of these partnerships and how you're partnering with community colleges or trade schools. And so I'm going to ask our organizers to put one final poll question up for our viewers, and that is, how's your organization upskilling and reskilling employees? Are you partnering with anyone? Are you doing in-house training? Are you doing live videos? I think we saw a lot of people partnering with community colleges or trade schools early on for recruiting. So it would be curious to see what you're doing about upskilling. Let's give this one just a minute. All right, we have very clear things that are going to come out here. Look at this, in-house training. 88% of our attendees are doing in-house training. And so I I think I'd be curious to know more about your industries. If you have experienced similar things to Frank, that you've had to grow your own and have some very industry specific training versus using some of the other resources. Thank you to the 45% of you who are partnering with Catapult for your upskilling and reskilling needs. And then similarly, about the same number who are using some free online resources. So Marcus and Frank, let's talk a little bit about kind of that upskilling. So you find them in the middle school, you get them into your organization. Marcus, you talked about the young high school student, I think at Union Academy, who wanted to be a welder and has been with you now for a number of years. So what have you done to keep them engaged in your business once you've been able to hook them? How do you keep them there as a retention strategy?
Yes, I mean, it's opportunity. I mean, like I said earlier, with kids today, I mean, as generations, I've all changed and evolved in differences and pieces and parts, but just understanding what these kids are looking for. You know, it's an opportunity to be engaged with the company. It's seeing a path forward for further opportunity. And just in providing those for them. And again, it's also about timing. It's all, you always have to look at and see, you have somebody that thinks they should be somewhere in a year where they're probably 5 years away, but it's also keeping them engaged and giving them the tools they need and the training they need to be successful in that, in the role that they're looking for. And that's we spend a lot of time with personal growth plans in our company. And we really push hard for these guys to understand, girls to understand, the tools that got them to where they're at today are not the same tools that are going to take them where they want to go tomorrow, and giving them the resources to be able to do that, to be able to grow and be successful. The worst thing is to get somebody where they think they want to be and they don't have the capacity or the tool and skill set to be able to do that. But we seem to see people engage in that. When you see them drifting a little bit, is really just re-engaging them with another learning opportunity or more of a challenge, is pushing them toward their goal. And we pay attention to that pretty closely to make sure that we don't, get somebody poaching, or, they see they can get named this title at a different company for the same amount of money, but they want that title, they want that role, but they're not really ready for it, and making sure they understand that and the steps to get there.
Basically, it's a little bit the same what we are doing. I mean, if you find a talent, we'll keep him or her at the worker level, then offering them obviously a career path, which leads up until project management, estimating here in the company, so to speak, that they are not stuck by working hours on job sites, that they have who's willing to as well have other career path, be foreman, supervisors, have 2 or 3 crews so underneath them. So that's the thing we're trying to make them understand. It's not the end, just working 10 hours, 8 hours a day. You have other possibilities. If you're really good at it, we will help you. We will give you seminars. We will train you to that position. That you can be successful also in an office setting, in project management, in others what you thought would never reach when starting shoveling sand, for example.
I think that's great to hear both of you focused on that. Some of the data I'll share with our attendees. Right now, the millennials, who are the age 26 to 41, is the largest working population right now. And when you look at them and then you add the Gen Z population that's coming into the workforce, that's currently 10 to 25 years old, that population will make up 70% of the future workforce in 2030. And the number one reason that they stay with a company is culture fit and work-life balance. The number 2 reason they stay with companies is professional development, learning and development, investment in them and their career. And then number 3 is the money. So if we, think about the stereotypes that people only want money to stay in a role, that's actually not what these next 2 generations are looking for. The millennials and the Gen Z, they're looking for alignment with the organization and a company who will invest in their learning and development and their professional development. So Frank, as you said, whether it's staying, outside or if it's moving inside, being attuned to what their life is and where they want to go. So I think that's it's nice to hear both of you focused on that. As we are kind of getting close to the end of our time here together, I want to come back to really the beginning of our session and give you each an opportunity to talk about the importance of partnering across organizations and industries to address the workforce shortage, and give our listeners who may or may not be in the construction industry maybe a couple key takeaways of what you've done with 4C and what you've done with your academy, Frank, to partner with one another to really continue to chip away at this workforce shortage. So Frank, do you want to kick us off, and then Marcus, I'll let you pick up from there.
All right. Yeah, the thing is, everybody needs to work together. Nobody can do that on their own. I mean, we started the academy. Now it's a non-profit organization which caters to all the trades. But that's us. That's we did that. And the academy does that on their own right now. But then securing funds and also securing the interest of industries. Not only, I mean, not talking about GCs, but all the other manufacturers who are in there, schools, everybody, to make that attractive. That is a big obstacle. A lot of people talk, nobody really walks. That also is the money piece with it. Everybody wants to have labor and for free kind of thing, already trained, and then we upskill them and uptrain them for 10 cents on the dollar, but the 90 cents have to be already trained, and that's not working right now. So that has to be a big mind shift of a lot of industries in the construction, but also in other industries. It's just like we cannot do that for free. We have to pay these people. We have to get them into work that they see it's worthwhile learning something with their hands in the construction industry, which is our main industry we are working in. So this is really teaming up. The whole industries have to get together, GCs, subcontractors, manufacturers, insurance companies, name it, that we have people, because otherwise, I mean, 3D printing works, but not for us. Yeah, nobody can install something in the house, a door with 3D printing. So these are the things which are industry specific, that people team up. Also money-wise, put funds out there that people get trained, because nobody does that really here, except a few of them, which are represented here on the panel. But that's it, so to speak. And there we have to get more track records that people really invest in the future workforces.
Yeah, I think Frank hit a lot of good points there. I mean, one of the things I'd probably say to take away for the group is, don't be afraid to, whatever industry in, hospitality, insurance, whatever it is, we're all competitors. Again, this is all, everybody's trying to get business and people, but look at it from a perspective of the industry, how much better the industry as a whole will be if you work together, and spend your energy on, trying to pour into people that have already, maybe already spent a lot of time in trying to create that foundation and move things forward. And Frank's point is, putting, whether it's resources from money, resources from time, resources from knowledge, those type of things. Don't get involved with it and put it out there. I mean, we're involved, a couple other organizations. Frank is doing a lot on his side of things from what I consider more of the private side, but like the Rock, which some of you may have heard of here in Charlotte, which is more industry driven toward construction, but working with high school students and kind of basically putting the carpentry classes and the trade classes back in school. We're investing a lot there as a company into that, but there's a lot of other ones. No matter what your trade is or your business is, there's probably people out there working on it. Get behind them, find the ones that are doing a good job with it and support them, and spend the time doing it, because it's going to pay dividends in the long run. I mean, a lot of us have a lot longer career here in our industries, and we are put in these leadership positions in our companies to be able to help solve problems not only for our company but for our industry as well. And I think taking that mindset will help your business grow and flourish along the way as well. So I think it's really been a big blessing to our business by paying more attention to it and trying to put more resources into those things today than we have probably in the past.
I think it's a great way for us to wrap up, Marcus, with your comments. It's these series that we do on thinking differently are really designed to highlight ways that our member organizations and employers have tackled really tough issues by getting outside of the box and thinking differently about how to approach the solution. And what both of you have articulated today on our session, it just really models that, right? You looked at an industry problem, you came together as partners, you thought about the full supply chain in the workforce and figured out how do we address that, and then you created partnerships along the way and filled some gaps, whether that was in the educational system or in the industry on its own. So thank you to both of you. I think this has been a wonderful testament of thinking differently about a workforce shortage problem. And I know there's been probably a lot of great takeaways from our audience. I'm going to ask our team, our events team, to put up a couple more screens here for us as I wrap us up so that we can give you some highlights of things yet to come from Catapult. And that is that we have several credits are available from HRCI and SHRM, as well as CPE credit. And so if you are an attendee listening today, we will follow up. The recording will be emailed to you, as well as the credit information so that you can sign up to receive that credit. We also have a number of events upcoming throughout the rest of the fall here. And so later this month, we will have a session on improving your benefits while reducing your cost with Hero Health. Hero Health is a healthcare benefit that sits on top of other healthcare programs and provides exceptional cost savings. You may want to tune into that. We have our HR Leadership Conference coming up on September 29th and 30th. This is an in-person live event in Charlotte on September 29th. We will have 5 sessions that will dig deeper into some of the economic and demographic shifts that are happening that are impacting the workforce. We'll take a deep dive into some more recruiting strategies and innovative things that companies are doing around attracting and retaining talent. We'll look at total rewards and compensation and benefit packages and how you need to structure those to win in the war for talent. And then look at developing future leaders, so kind of a summary. And then on day 2, we have a number of our directors from Catapult who will be leading various sessions, whether it's from pre-employment to applicant tracking systems, our internship program we mentioned, our fractional HR services and recruiting, some of our strategic HR solutions, and of course the ever popular compensation and total rewards sessions. So make plans to join us. That information is on our website now, so sign up now to join us on the 29th and 30th at the Marriott Center City in Uptown Charlotte. And then our next Thinking Differently virtual series will take place on October 4th. So we'll look forward to seeing you there. If you have any questions or need anything, please email our events team at meeting@letscatapult.org. And we will look forward to seeing you all then. Marcus, Frank, indebted to you for your time today, and thank you and appreciation for being a Catapult member. We appreciate everything that you do with our association as well. Have a great weekend, great week ahead to everyone, and we'll see you at our next upcoming events.